Welcome back, viewers. You are still tuned into Prime Live. It is a Motivation Monday, and there is no better way to get your Monday started than a motivation from Mr. Jabu Zwane. I really enjoyed last week's conversation, and I always enjoy kickstarting my Monday with a conversation from Mr. Jabu Zwane. So I definitely look forward to getting my fix of some motivation to get us through this week. We have Mr. Jabu Zwane with Motivation Monday. Let's take a look.
Yes, good evening and welcome to Monday Motivation. Yes, my name is Jabu Zwane, and thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Well, this evening we are speaking leadership, actually, and it is a conversation that has actually been prompted by some of the conversations I've been having with some of my clients this week, or past week rather. And I wanted to just share a little bit, especially because I know Monday Motivation, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got business leaders, we've got corporate leaders, we have all sorts of leaders that are tuning into our show. And I wanted to share a little bit of some insights in terms of what kind of skills do we need to have in this day and age where things are changing the way that they're changing, but also where people that we are leading are also changing. Because we need to understand a couple of things about leadership. Of course, we are leading to reach a particular purpose, right? I mean, if you are in a company, for example, in the CEO of a company, you have executive oversight of ensuring that profit targets are being reached, but also whatever service that you're offering to your clientele, that it is reached, that you're complying with all the legislation, that you're complying with the shareholders' needs, but also that there are no lines that are being crossed. Financially, the company is also complying with legislation around that. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur, then if you are maybe just running your own business and it's just you're of course leading yourself in your business. But if you have some employees, you want to also make sure that all the targets and all the goals have been reached. And also, same thing applies when you are a department head or whatever capacity of leadership you may be in. And there are three areas that I want us to think about, that I want us to consider as a point of focus. I normally draw this pyramid. The pyramid is it's pointing upwards, and then the other one is pointing down. So it's almost like create this diamond in the middle. And whatever it is at the bottom, there's the most of what that is. Let's say, for example, if you're looking at taking the pyramid is facing up, at the bottom of the pyramid are the people who are employees, are the people who are followers. And at the top of the pyramid, that's where the leadership is staying, right? But at the bottom of the pyramid, that's where the learning, that's where the dependence is coming in. That's where people have more of little responsibilities, and they tend to be focused more on themselves and in terms of their own needs. So there tends to be quite a lot of fragility as far as security of the job is concerned, because then it so happens that also at the bottom of the pyramid there, that's where you don't have a high level of skill that's required. Some of the job descriptions that are down there means that there is a higher amount of people available to fulfill those jobs, because it doesn't have the level of complexity that requires specialized way of thinking, specialized skills. And so there tends to be then a lot more people there at the bottom. But then at the top of the pyramid, that's where, of course, the leadership sits. And that's where specialized skills are concerned. That's where we have the highest level of accountability. That's where we have to provide direction as far as where the company is going. We also have to provide resources for the guys who are at the bottom of the pyramid as far as infrastructure, training, development of skills, and all of that is concerned. And at the top of the pyramid as well, I mean, specialized skills, that also means that not many people are available to fill those particular jobs. And then in the middle of the pyramid, that's where I normally speak about where it all matters, where the two relationships actually meet. So at the middle of the pyramid is where equality is found. At the top of the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid, it's hierarchical. It is based on instruction. It is based on the job description. It is based on the duties that have to be performed. And it's normally top down and also down to the top or bottom up. Top to the bottom or bottom up. In other words, the manager or the leader gives instructions to the guys at the bottom, and the guys at the bottom have to fulfill and await also the instructions from the top. But right in the middle is where actually everything matters. And this is where people either become happy or become unhappy. This is where we decide the culture of the company. And that's where equality comes in. And this is where people have the freedom or will feel either valued or undervalued. And that is depending on how the top treats the bottom. This is where people can either feel like their jobs or the salaries that they're getting meet the amount of work that they be asked to perform. This is where the issue of fairness comes in. This is where we find today, even in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, there's the issue of equitable salaries or equal pay for equal work. This is where we're looking at what are the policies of the company as far as the promotions are concerned. In other words, in the middle here, this is where we look at our regulations, where we look at our policies for promotions, where we look at our policies for rewards and incentives. And if those are not being done correctly, let's say, for example, if in terms of the HR is concerned, the policies of HR are not equally applied to people, this is where people can start to feel a little bit, think that things are a bit unfair, or they find out that certain people who do the same jobs as what they're making that they're doing are earning a bit more than themselves. This is where contention can come into play. So you've got the pyramid. You've got at the top of the pyramid in terms of responsibility. That's where most of the power resides. And so if you are a leader and you're at the top, one of the formulas that I normally give leaders is that if you want to really determine the amount of power that you've got to look at yourself as a leader at the top, look at the people who are below you, multiply your power to the amount of people. In other words, 1 to the ratio of the people that you are currently leading gives you sort of more or less the level of power that you've got. And as a result, you've got to then be super mindful. You've got to be then super mindful of how you conduct yourself. Because we need to remember when we're speaking about mindsets and mindset development, as I've been sharing many different times, that people are constantly learning passively. People learn more from what you do more than they learn from what you say. So in other words, if you are there at the top of the pyramid and you are a leader and you speak very well and you speak a good game and you're talking about, okay, guys, we need to have values in a company. We've got a vision and mission. These are values. This is the mission. This is how we're going to be able to get there. But then as you are leading, you begin to contradict those things that you have said. That betrayal is what people are going to be impacted the most on, and that's what they're going to learn. So if they learn from you as a leader that you can say one thing and then do another, that very same behavior that you are displaying is what's going to be adopted into the culture of a company. Because the number one person that sets the culture of a company, of course, is the leader. If the leader does not live out the culture of the company, that the company says, okay, we are an inclusive company. We are a company that is going to treat people fairly. We are a company that's going to remunerate everybody fairly. We're a company that has integrity, that doesn't involve itself in corruption, and that does not deal with people in an inhumane way. But you as the leader are not displaying that. That's what people are going to emulate. And then the second thing that I want us to think about as well is, as much as it is true that people don't do what you say does matter as a leader. How you communicate to your people does matter. So if you are the kind of leader that addresses problems publicly and you're yelling at them, and you're screaming at them, you're shouting at them, again, that's what people will learn. As much as you may speak about how it's important for us to treat each other with respect and to not speak to each other in a manner that undermines each other, but you as a leader are not doing that. Ultimately, that is what the people are going to emulate. That is what they're going to copy from you. Because remember again, when it comes to mindsets, it's that mindsets are constantly building whether you are aware of it or not. And one of the main ways that mindsets are building is through observations. That people are looking and they're learning more in a passive state than they are actively involved in the process of learning. In other words, in terms of how things work right now, the way that I'm even talking about these things, it's not, as much as it is great that we can be able to speak about these things like this, but it is not the most effective way to teach. The most effective way to teach is through observations. And when your words meet your actions, that is the most powerful way that you can be able to teach. And then the third thing is that, of course, it's how then do you carry out whatever it is that you say is the culture of the company, are the values of the company. So in other words, you can have a situation where you are doing the work that you're supposed to do, and then you are saying all the right things. But if the way that you are expressing yourself, to say that you're somebody who you're talking about inclusivity and friendliness and warmth, but you are not a warm person, even though you are saying the right things, even though you are doing the right thing and doing right by people, your mannerism does impact the culture of a company. Think about it this way. If you're in a situation where, you know, when somebody is not around, somebody of, well, it might not necessarily be somebody that's in a big authority. Can it be somebody that is normally the life of a party, all right? Whenever they are not around in a group setting, you find a situation where everybody is sad, where there isn't that vibe, where there isn't that energy because the person is not around. But as soon as they show up with that big smile, they show up with the big energy, with the charisma. Now all of a sudden the mood in the environment changes. You know, nobody has that power more than the leader themselves. And so if as a leader, you happen to have a personality that is not necessarily a very friendly personality, that tends to be quite serious, that tends to be inflexible, that tends to be fixed on certain ways and how things are done, that does not allow for creativity, that stifles innovation, then that is actually the culture that the company is going to adopt. Because remember what I did say is that at the top of the pyramid, that's where most of the power resides. And power is what impacts the company the most. And so this is something that we've got to actually be mindful of. You've got to be mindful of the fact that whatever mannerism, whatever we say, whatever we do, however way we do it, that is ultimately what is going to impact and influence the culture of the company. And so when we are leading, we have got to be very mindful of that. I wish I could be able to show that image so you can actually be able to see how the two pyramids come together. But in closing, what I want us to consider tonight is that as a leader, ask yourself this question: how am I leading? How is my leadership style impacting the culture, the value, the vision, the manner in which people are performing in the company? Is it encouraging? Is it motivating? Is it inspirational? Is it empowering? Is it equipping? Or is it restricting? Is it condemning? Is it judgmental? Is it intimidation? Because all of those ways and manners that we conduct ourselves impact the culture of the company, impact the experience of the employees, and impact ultimately the bottom line in the company. I hope you've learned something around leadership this morning. Hopefully it was encouraging and motivational. My name is Jabu Zwane. I want to thank you so much this evening for joining us. And we will see you again next time on Monday Motivation. Enjoy the rest of your programming.